Angela Hartnett is teaching Lewis, Nicola and I to cook a classic Italian veal dish. Lewis, you ever cooked veal before?
No, I haven't actually ever cooked veal. I feel a bit guilty about those little baby cows.
Have you eaten veal, Lewis?
I have eaten it.
Oh, you can't feel that guilty. Can you?
Nicola, what about you?
No, never cooked it, but have eaten it, and yes, do like it.
You do. Have you eaten it like this, with breadcrumbs on it?
No, I haven't. No.
It's quite a classic, isn't it? It's
It is absolutely
hugely
classic.
Italian dish. Okay, well, without further ado, we've got this lovely, beautiful piece of veal. Then we're going to lightly bash it out, just because we want it quite thin, because what we're going to do is put a layer of breadcrumbs. We're going to, the French term is to pane, and it basically means to dip it in flour, then you dip it in eggs, and then you dip it in breadcrumbs. It's just pane, and you can do that with Matthew's favourite ingredient, goat's cheese. You can put in goat's cheese, or, I mean, chicken's a very popular thing to sort of batter out a chicken.
What does the battering do?
It basically has it thin, because what's going to happen, when it cooks, it's going to shrink up, and we want to keep it as thin as possible, because remember, we're cooking the breadcrumbs with the egg anyway, and we still want to keep it nice and rare in the centre. I'm just going to cut down the centre there, and what we do is we're going to lightly season up our flour, bit of salt in there, and we're going to season with a little bit of pepper. And the ideal thing about this dish is it can be made in advance. You don't have to do it that day and eat it. You can leave it in the fridge, lightly cling film, as long as you use it within 24 hours. But you can actually make these, and my cousin of mine always makes them. She'll make about 20 at a time, put them in the freezer.
Really?
And then, yeah, and you just cook them.
Cooked?
No, raw.
Oh,
and then you take them out the night before, and then you've got them. So you're going to dip your veal into the flour like so, very lightly. Okay, into the egg.
Could you put some parmesan in the breadcrumbs?
You could put some parmesan. There's a great dish to do with little lamb cutlets, so you do it with the parmesan as well. You dip it in there. Ideally, use a fork to turn it, because otherwise, especially if you're doing lots, you get totally messy. And I know Matthew will love doing this part. Okay, so you dip like so. Make sure it's really nice, and the flour helps it stick to the egg, basically. If you don't do it in the flour, your egg won't stick to the breadcrumbs. You can actually do this with beef as well. The classic way is very much with breadcrumbs. So you put that there, and we're going to leave that to rest.
Actually, breadcrumbs, there's a great breadcrumb culture in Italian food, I discovered.
I love breadcrumbs.
Well, it's a sort of useful way of using up, in Italian cooking is very thrifty. You waste nothing. So you use up yesterday's bread or the day before's bread.
Totally.
Is it better to use stale bread?
You can use stale bread, but I think fresh breadcrumbs give a much nicer flavour to it. Not flavour, but I just don't feel it as dry. Put in my pan, it's already hot.
Right.
I've got that in my pan. I'm going to add a little, if you could pass me a little bit of butter, please.
Yes,
Matthew.
absolutely.
In fact, I'm going to put it on this ring because that's slightly too hot, and I'm going to burn it so it all gets complicated. Okay. You're buttering there.
More?
And then we're going to go straight in here.
And are you waiting for the butter to melt first, or it doesn't really matter?
The pan's so hot, you can see straight away.
You don't want the butter to burn, do you?
No, exactly. So we'll put a little bit more just to cool it down. That's why I've moved it onto a less of a heat, and we're just going to leave it like so.